Thanks for coming to this session. We're going to talk a little bit about the various programs that NOFA Mass and some of our partners have ongoing that different farms and farmers can enroll in, and all the different resources that you get as a result of these programs. So we're going to take turns talking for about 5 minutes each. And then at the end of the session, we're hoping this is more of sort of a networking and question and answer session. So we'll have a prompt for you all to talk to each other. You're welcome to come talk to us and ask more detailed questions. But the hope is that you walk away knowing some fairly specific programs and resources that you can access through NOFA, through our partners, to help in the coming years. So Laura Davis is going to start by talking about TOPP. And I can move the slides along for you if you'd like.
Hi, everybody. Laura Davis. I am a farmer at Long Life Farm in Hopkinton. And I also am an organic inspector. So I work for Bay State. So if you're a certified farmer, you might have seen me have my inspector hat on. I also do soil analysis for NOFA. So if you've sent in your tests, you might have had me do the calculations. And most recently, well, actually since 2014, I've been helping farmers and food processors navigate the organic certification process. And I was really happy back then when the USDA had this grant called Sound and Sensible. That's really what gave me my job at NOFA, was that grant. And now here we are with a new grant called TOPP, Transition to Organic Partnership Program, whereby we get to help farmers, again, navigate the organic certification process, but in addition to that, also match them up with an experienced organic farmer mentor. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So, who wants to go organic? Who wants to be certified organic? That's what this program is all about. You can get an experienced organic farmer mentor to work with you for a full year. You don't have to feel guilty about calling them when you need because they're getting paid. That's the exciting part for the mentors. This is a national program. So it's a $100 million program that the USDA has established. We've just finished our first year, but it will go through 2027. And the great thing is it's not just NOFA Mass. It's all the NOFAs in all 7 states. It's MOFGA in Maine. It's Pennsylvania Certified Organic. It's PASA in Pennsylvania. It's every single state has a partner throughout the United States. So everybody's creating content for all of you, which is really the exciting part. So when you look at the event page, you can see things throughout the country virtually, or if you want to go, you can go in person. So it's really an exciting project. So organic mentors are paid, and the transition mentorship is free to transitioning mentee farms. Okay, next slide. So what are the things that mentees, what are the requirements to be a mentee in this program? I mentioned the mentorship program for 1 year that you get an experienced farmer. You have to be committed to certify at some point, okay? So maybe after 3 years, if you're transitioning from a chemically managed farm, at some point you have to be committed to certify. That's the end goal that NOP has in trying to get more organic acres. But you will get free technical assistance, not only from your mentor, but also from me to help you with your paperwork, which is sometimes people have heard that it might be a little onerous to fill out the paperwork. It is the first time, but after that, it's just an update every year, and I can help make your life a little bit easier by helping with the process. We also have contracted with UMass Amherst. I'm really, really excited about this because it's the very first time that UMass Amherst has had an organic production series of workshops. And they're going to start on Valentine's Day, so just be attuned to that date because they'll have 7 or 8 workshops. They're open to all farmers, not just if you're a top farmer. All farmers, open to everybody. And those are free of charge. So definitely come because they're going to be great technical assistance workshops.
So when you say you're going to have that?
They're going to start on February 14th. They're both in person and virtual. And the in person is going to be at Grafton, North Grafton. Can't remember the place. Brigham. I'm forgetting the location, but both virtual and in person. The other cool thing about if you're a mentee is you will get technical assistance time with the extension agents from UMass Amherst, which is a big deal. Like if you have a disease problem that the mentor can't solve or doesn't know the answer to, it's a great way to be able to have one of those folks on your team. If you're not getting the veg notes, those are the people that write all the veg notes, all those extension folks. Definitely get the veg notes if you're not getting that from UMass Amherst. Okay, so all mentees will get a $500 stipend for travel. And what that means is that the requirement is that your mentor go to your farm at least once, and that you go to the mentor farm at least once, and that you meet up a third time face-to-face someplace, maybe at a workshop or a coffee or wherever you like. So, and also there will be included in the mentees program where we'll do a soil sample and give you recommendations on amendments for your soil. And I'll be involved with that.
I got a minute.
Okay. Okay, so for mentors, obviously, this is a great way to give back and to help farmers who are just starting out, who need help. When I first certified in 2013, I was a board member for NOFA, and I said, who can help me with my organic system plan? And they all looked at me like I had a third eye. Well, be careful what you wish for, because then you become that person. Okay, so if you're going to be a mentor, you have to have worked on a certified organic farm for at least 3 years. Stipend for the mentor is $3,000, so you don't, like I said, the mentees don't have to feel guilty about calling when they need. And you're going to co-create an agreement that suits the mentee's needs and the skill set that they need to acquire from the mentor. So there's a pretty extensive training program for the mentor and so forth. It's a great program, and so we're going to start matching our next set of mentors and mentees in February. And organictransitions.org is where you sign up. Okay? And you'll see this a lot, but we are a partner as well as many other organizations throughout the Northeast and country. Is that my last slide?
Yeah.
I think it was.
And the program does last several years, so you can still apply for future
That's right.
mentor-mentee matching.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Milliken. I'm a technical assistance provider on the soil health team with NOFA Mass, and I'm just going to quickly run through some slides about soil technical assistance services that NOFA is providing. I formatted the slides in kind of a who, what, where, when, why format, and my goal is to kind of highlight the nuances between the different assessments that we're doing and give you an idea of what kind of information you can expect from the different assessments. So these are the 3 different assessments that we do: chemical, the soil health assessment, and the microbiology. You can go to the next one. Soil chemical analysis. This is the one that most people are familiar with. 2 things right off the bat. Every single slide on the one section for the assessments, every single assessment is going to say spring or fall for the ideal times, which is true for the soil chemistry test. In particular, fall would be a preferred time to do them. Another thing to keep in mind with all of the assessments is consistency is key. So if you choose to do one of these assessments in the fall, you want to stick to the fall every year after that. Another thing with the soil chemistry is you have a choice between 2 different labs, UMass or Logan Labs, and it's the same thing with the consistency. Consistency is key. If you start with Logan Labs, be consistent and stick with Logan Labs every time thereafter. So for the soil chemistry, you collect the sample, you submit it to the lab of your choice. The results will be emailed to NOFA, and our in-house soil chemistry expert, Laura Davis, will do the analysis, make recommendations on which amendments will best bring your nutrients into balance. The amendments that she recommends do coincide with what's available on the bulk order, so you can take advantage of cost savings there. Also, if you get this done before January 25th, I believe there's a promo where you get an additional discount on your order. The next one.
$10.
And the next is the soil health assessment. This is a physical and macrobiological soil health assessment. This assessment is going to give you a picture of your soil health over time. So it's best used in an area where you're planning on implementing new site management practices. So you'd want to do a baseline before you implement the new site management, and then every year thereafter. And you're going to start to see a trend in your soil health. Hopefully, you're going to be improving your soil health with the new site management practice. And then two things to point out with this soil health assessment is you want to try to schedule it when there are representative conditions. So for example, this past summer was extremely rainy and it was really hard to get these done because it's just not a representative condition. The soil is saturated and that can affect the results.
Or maybe it will be the new.
Yes, it might be the new representative condition, you're right. And then also before any kind of physical disturbance of the soil, so tilling, mounding, things like that can affect the results of the assessment that we do. And the next slide is just a picture of one of the many things that we look at during the soil health assessment. So on the left-hand side, we took this soil core out of the soil, and that's what's left over in the ground. And you can see the biopore right there going through, and then that's the soil core, and that's the biopore, and there's a root just going straight through the biopore. So that's just a cool thing, one of the things that we look for as a soil health indicator, and there's 9 different things that go into this assessment that look at a lot of different variables. And the last one is the soil microbiology. This one's near and dear to my heart. So this one, you collect the sample from your soil. There's instructions on how to properly collect the sample online. Mail it in. Either myself or Ruben will do the work on the microscope, and you're going to get back a report that gives you your biomass. It's going to quantify how much of the different microorganisms are in your soil. You also get a fungal to bacterial ratio, and one of us can help you with some guidance on how to get the biology to where you want it to be. So you're going to get, with the biomass present, we can evaluate, is it currently where you need to be for the kind of crop that you're trying to grow, or do you need to assist it to get to where you want it? So these 3 things, can be the last slide. These 3 things encompass the holistic approach to soil health that NOFA Mass is providing, and you can always email the soil health team and ask if one of these is appropriate or not. Ruben's actually really good at guiding people on whether they should spend the money or not on that. So yeah.
And where can they order or like communicate about buying one of the soil health?
Yep. So if you go to the NOFA Mass website, you go under programs, soil technical assistance, and then there's a little button that says buy soil services, and they're all listed under there. Thank you.
We have a group of people to talk about this one, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So who wants to start? You want to give a brief overview of kind
Sure,
of process,
yeah.
and then
I'm happy to.
cool.
Yeah, of course. So the USDA has a 5-year program, the Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities Grant, and PASA and Partners were a recipient of that award. And the overarching program is Climate Smart Farming and Marketing. And we're going across 15 states with 13 different partner organizations. I work at PASA and have the great opportunity to be working with NOFA Mass and Pecasset Pokanoket Land Trust, who we'll also hear from today as 2 of our partners on the grant. But essentially, this is an opportunity for farmers to think about for all of us to think about the whole food value chain. And so we talk about climate smart farming and marketing. What we're starting is at the field level to build climate resilience, and at the very end level, right, consumer education and value to those crops that are using climate smart practices to grow and to create more resilient farms. And so this program has the opportunity for farmers to apply and get access to resources, both technical and financial, as well as marketing. And so the opportunity is to think through at your farm, what are some of the challenges that you have and what conservation practices that we have within the program, and there's 28 of them, some flyers throughout, and also a very easy website to remember, which is climatesmart.org. But utilizing conservation practices that could help you with those challenges, and then working with a technical assistance provider to come up with an implementation plan. And then the climate, part of the climate piece is also quantifying, like where did we start and then where did we get to after implementing these practices? Did we reduce greenhouse gas emissions? Did we store carbon? What are also those additional environmental benefits? As Melissa was talking about, did we increase our soil health? Have we increased our water infiltration, our water storage, right, runoff, things like that, as well as additional like habitat benefits when we think about increasing biodiversity. So this is a really exciting opportunity. It goes through March 31st of 2028. It's a very kind of straightforward application process, and that can also be found at climatesmart.org. We are in the very early pilot phase of the program, and so I just like to let people know that we're just kind of like working with several farms right now, and we'll be rolling out the program kind of a little bit in phases over the next year or two. Yeah. Do you want to hop in next?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, I guess this is more of sort of, this is a national program, and this is, we're part of our regional implementation. So this is just a slide showing all of the different places and organizations who are involved in this project.
And if you're in Mass, connect with, the two that are starred, but if you're in Vermont, there's NOFA Vermont, there's NOFA New York, right? So there's a whole, but it's helpful to connect with one of these partners rather than just like applying on the website as like a one-off. Like connect with a partner, you'll be walked through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be able to, you can see on climatesmart.org a list of those partners. You have to memorize them and be able to reach out and get that like one-on-one support.
Yeah, and this is, I think, maybe just a slightly more detailed view of what you said earlier of the different sort of benefits and reasoning behind the Climate Smart program.
Yeah, and I think a key piece that I left out here, so thanks for pointing this out, is just also those educational resources, right, that go hand in hand with programs like this. Who knows their farm best is the farmer, right? And then who could best assist a farmer is often, other times, another farmer, right? So those peer-to-peer learning opportunities that work in tandem to the technical assistance.
Those are the practices.
Yeah, that's the NRCS.
Yeah, kind of all-encompassing these practices, and when you look at them, right, these could be overwhelming. But what's the story behind this? Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't heard you say the letters NRCS, but are all of the practices NRCS practices, or are there other agencies providing this kind of stuff?
That is an excellent question. So, Natural Resources Conservation Services, the NRCS, that's where these practices come from. And when you see the number, there's the 28 up top is just signifying that there's 28 different practices. And then the number next to each practice is the NRCS code for that practice, which all have guidelines that you need to adhere to when you implement the practices. So a way to learn more about them is to kind of look up, what exactly is the NRCS talking about with these conservation practices, right? And that links back to the fact that this is a USDA grant.
But specifically NRCS, we're not dealing with like the other branches of USDA.
This is not even dealing with NRCS per se. It's dealing with PASA as kind of the umbrella org that receive the funding from the USDA, and then the partners assist in the implementation. And I think the idea is, in order to sustain some of these practices long term, you can choose to connect with NRCS in this process.
Is the pilot that you're engaging in the next year or two to evaluate how to implement these, or to also expand beyond these practices to potentially include others?
We'll be utilizing these 28 practices through the grant period.
Okay.
If we end up including more, that would be great. And just these 28 are kind of like a unique project for all of the programs that are the USDA funded. And the pilot is just sort of to phase it out, right? So we have technical assistance providers throughout the partners, and each technical assistance provider will be able to help like a certain number of farms. And so just having people that are interested in the program and apply, letting them know that, you know, you might not receive services right this spring, but maybe in the fall, and just trying to manage expectations of when we'll be able to meet the interest. And also a pilot phase, right, to look at the system. So as it grows, everyone can have a positive experience. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and so in thinking about these different practices, being able to look at your farm holistically, right, and maybe being able to stack some practices that are complementary and help meet some of those challenges or goals that you have.
That's the pathway. That's the process. We could talk about this for a bit, but
Yeah.
we'll walk you, like, there's an application process and there's a call. Essentially, like, this is on the website too, right? To
I
some
don't know if
degree?
this part is
Okay,
yet.
maybe
Yeah.
not. Okay, maybe you should say something about that. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so I'm a technical assistance provider with the Climate Smart grant. So my job is to help you get through this process. So you don't necessarily have to memorize this or know this. We're gonna work one-on-one, step by step. It's a little daunting even for me to look at it like this, but we're gonna get through it, and we're getting a lot of great training from PASA. So, yeah.
So
just step by step.
the thing to memorize being climatesmart.org.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah, or the partner org if
Yeah.
you're, you know, not wanting to go online and just be able to have a conversation with someone. So yeah.
If
Maybe
there's
I'm
any,
gonna roll out a T-shirt.
We should.
okay, I would like to know if there's any requirement to be part of the climate smart program.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
If
the
there's
first
any
part.
requirement for farmers to be part of.
Yeah, so a component of this is because it's a USDA program, the way that they have set up how they're going to be collecting information is for farmers to be registered with the Farm Services Agency. So having like that farm ID number and field and track numbers.
So I was specifically asking if you have to own the lands, if you want things
No,
like
you
that, all those details.
You have to have control of the land in some
Okay, you
some
have control.
practice. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's also something that a technical assistance provider can support you with and like registering with the FSA and thinking through what does that mean, as well as, you know, what does control over land mean and what are some of the guidelines and sort of any paperwork that would be beneficial to you as a farmer in supporting that land control over the period of your contract.
And I think something also good to note about this is that I don't know who has worked with NRCS here in the okay. There's a good amount of barriers to entry for some people as they first start with the NRCS process. I think some of the intention with this is to reduce those barriers by giving the funds to an organization who has less restrictions, and then even more so, some of the partners have even less restrictions than you all. So it's like creating opportunities and avenues for accessing these practices in a more accessible way. And then as you do that, you're also connected to NRCS and learning that process as well. So it's a little more supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so that's a really good point. Like, just trying to create some positive experiences and take take on some of the more challenging aspects that people can have with I don't know, be it contractual language or getting in touch with government agencies. If you've had that experience in the past, and really having someone be an advocate for you and an ally to be able to do the work that you want to do. And you know, I always feel like a bonus at the end of this is like maybe then there's other programs that you're aware of and you can with this support can be accessing afterwards. Yeah, there's a lot out there to support where you're up to.
Translation services? Other
Yeah.
language? I don't know, I'm jumping the gun on your presentation, but.
No, you're not at all. It's not part of the presentation. It's an excellent question, and it is part of our goal to have those services. Excuse me.
No, it's good.
Folks, we have interpretation services as well, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Aaron.
And I could speak to that a little bit. I may be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I had this confirmed recently. I think NRCS and USDA are legally required to come up with interpretation and translation. So if you don't have those resources in your program, they're supposed to be able to get those for you.
Yeah. If you go into an NRCS office, on the wall of every single one is a list of all the languages that they have the capacity to translate.
It could be slow to get.
It's very slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an intent for us to directly support that. Yeah.
So I think
Okay.
the last program.
That's
Okay.
that's me. Okay, cool. Thanks for staying and not leaving in the middle of this. So this is the last one here. This is a cooperative agreement with the Pecasset-Poconoket Land Trust, with whom I work for, and with and on behalf of Chief George Spring Buffalo, who is the chief of the Pecasset-Wampanoag tribe. We have this cooperative agreement, which is also in partnership with Global Village, NOFA Mass, and Nichols College. So I'm just going to go over each organization and what we offer through this specific cooperative agreement, and then we can answer questions about other things. We do a lot more than this, but this is a place to start. Oh, and another point about NRCS, I think that's really important to know, is that across the board and across the country, farmers, historically white, middle to upper class, large land-owning farmers producing monocultures, have been accessing NRCS funding for a long time, and we are a member of Rural Coalition, who's a member of La Via Campesina, and many of our other partners have worked tirelessly to change these policies in government so that people who deserve access to these programs can have access to. And that has not historically been the case, and it's still a challenge, but everybody deserves the right to access the funding that you are a constituent and a citizen of the United States, and therefore you should be getting the funding and access to these monies. So do that. Anyways, okay, so speaking of things that we offer is federal, state, and local funding navigation and access. Essentially, that's me. If you're interested in accessing one of these tiers, I'm able to help you to varying degrees based on your skill, needs, knowledge, and what have you. Also, I'm just going to put a little buzz here for local funding specifically for farmers. Your local government, there's a wide range of what they have the capacity for and can do, but your town select board, your clerk if you're in Massachusetts, you should be connecting with them to some extent to just have discussions on what money they have available, because I've worked with these local governments before. They have just money sitting there that they don't know what to do with. So instead of them I don't know, putting a new sewer system in, which is also useful, but maybe they could assist you with some of your farm projects as well. So and it's also it's good, you can use buzzwords like community development or building a local farm's food system and things of that nature. I can help you if you want to kind of brainstorm that. My background is in multi-stakeholder collaboration,
community organizing, community building, lobbying, advocacy, that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, I am doing organizing, but it's in kind of a different framework right now. But if you're interested in kind of building that into something that you do, or are connected to a specific coalition that you want strategic advisement on, I can also offer that. And then I think a big thing that we do, which I just realized was important when multiple people told me, was just connecting farmers across the region. So we know people in Vermont, and we have contacts with, Southside Community Land Trust and Oasis on Baloo, and everybody's working tirelessly, especially in the summer, but they're all focused on their spaces and their places and their land, and it's important to share the knowledge and resources with each other, and we help make those connections. So that's kind of like outreach too. Okay, you can. And then through this project, I took these pictures. Just gonna give myself a special shout out. They're okay. But this is Ruben. Ruben, obviously the education director. This is Jen Salonetti at Woven Roots. This is the soil health. This is all from one soil health training. Paulo was there. Andrali was there. This is, I think, Dead Man's Finger, right, which is a fungus that comes demonstrating healthy soil. But I think we have 6 soil health trainings coming up this year. I think at least 2 or 3 will be at Woven Roots again. It's a really special place. It's a really great place for community connection. And then we're still working on the others, but a really good opportunity to not just learn about soil health, but also to make long-term, long-standing relationships with your peers. Okay, you could go to the next one. And then Global Village is in Grafton, Massachusetts, not very far from here. They are offering a needs and market, offers a needs market, which I'll talk about here a little bit more in a second. A business planning cohort, so across a few different spaces in the state, and then I think at least one 6-day business intensive in the summer or in the fall. So let me just pull up the description of the offers and needs market, because it's better coming from them rather than coming from me. Okay, so this is the description of the one that's upcoming, but there'll be other opportunities too. On Sunday, January 21st at 1:30 p.m., Global Village Farms, in collaboration with the Southern New England Farmers of Color Collaborative, will be facilitating a needs and offers market. So this is kind of like a mutual aid opportunity. The offers and needs market supports the thoughtful exchanges of resources based on the most urgent needs and valued skills within a group. By allowing individuals to barter, request a fee, or make offerings free of charge, a wide range of potential collaborations and partnerships are identified. Global Village Farms intends to leverage this resource matching to support growers with funding for peer mentorship and to provide public workshops to address common needs of farmers of color. So that's the intention of all this. We have a table with them upstairs. If you're interested, there's more information there. Okay, next slide. And then the last thing is through this program, we're running a financial literacy course. It's already started, but if you want to join still, you've only missed the first class. It's all on Zoom. It's through Nichols College. Karen Curran's the instructor. She's been teaching for 30 years. She's an accountant. She has excellent financial understanding and is able to provide it in an accessible way. And it goes till February 20th. It's at 8 to 10 on Tuesdays. So that's currently running. We'll have another one as well, maybe in the fall. If you sign up for this too, you get an additional hour or 2 with Karen, as she'll sit down with you individually and walk you through any challenges specific to your farm. Okay, and that's that. I think that might be it. Okay, also took that picture. I'm a very amateur photographer, but I'm just super proud that I did that. So what was I going to say? I think something useful for people with all of these things that we just went over is to not just be like, okay, cool, good information, I'll write that down in my notebook, which some of you are, and some of you are just hoping to rely on memory, which If that's up to me, I won't remember it. So write it down. But also, I'd ask you / challenge you or encourage you to tell 2 other people about these opportunities, especially the CSC opportunity. It's a really unique opportunity that's beyond. It's something new. It's different. I think it's important for people to access. Of course, our stuff too is good. But just tell everybody that you know about these opportunities. There's a decent amount of people in here. We'd like to spread the word. I think it's important for opportunities of access and just knowledge acquisition. So that's all I have, but we have questions.
Yeah, so I think we'll open it up for like a couple minutes of general questions, and then the hope is also to make some connections within this room. So we're going to ask folks to kind of get into smaller groups and just think about, of all the programs and opportunities we talked about today, so the Transition to Organic Partnership Program, the Climate Smart Program, the Nichols College Financial Literacy Training Course, the Needs Market next Sunday, I'm trying to think of the Soil Technical Services, like of all these like specific and general programs, like what feels like it's meeting a need for you, what are you excited to tell your peers and colleagues about, and why. But first we'll take any questions if folks have any.
Sorry that this is a comment and not a question, but I just wanted to make sure it's clear that the offers and needs market on Sunday is for farmers of color. Just specifically.
A question regarding the transition to organic. What's the shortest amount of time that an existing farm can take to get to organic certification? And the other part of the question is, that's the shortest, and what's the longest?
Yeah. Okay, so the longest is 3 years. The shortest depends upon what your practices have been and whether or not anything prohibited has been applied on the soils within the last 3 years. So we could talk about that, and we can identify what your fertility program has looked like over the last 3 years. I can make a list of products you're using, and we can determine whether or not you have to do any waiting, or you can apply right away for 2024.
Actually, another question regarding organic certification. So I manage a small urban farm, about half an acre actually, it's that small. And we've struggled with that. What value is there for a small farm to go through this process of certification? And I'm just intrigued by that option. To be able to offer inner city folks, and we subsidize. We end up subsidizing. This is the farm is a program of the Common Square Neighborhood Development Corporation. Housing is a big deal, but comprehensive in nature, and we do care about what our residents eat, and they're having access to the best produce that we can grow, and it would be kind of awesome to be able to say, okay, we're going beyond saying that we use organic growing practices. And so when I say, what value is really what's there's value in just trying to be just using organic practices is valuable, but is there something more like the golden standard maybe? And that might be a little bit biased or something else.
Right,
That's
so
not right.
a lot of people talk about going beyond organic, right? And that means, maybe doing more nutrient density, mineralization, perhaps, doing more with the biology than is required for standard organic certification. It might be labor justice involved in some of your farm work. So the organic certification is a baseline. It's a foundation for which those other things can be added. And farmers, if you're brand new to farming, it's the best way to be able to give your customers confidence, right? That they can trust you. There's an inspector coming, going to look at everything you use, and that logo tells your customer that you've been inspected and that somebody's looking at it, what you do. Any farms that say they're using organic practices, they can do that. But I will say, recently in the last year, the USDA has been funded for their increase in enforcement. And what that means to small farmers is that if you are saying that you are growing organically and you are not certified and you do any marketing of that sort, they will come down and say, we're going to shut you down. Or you certify. So I've already experienced 3 farms in Massachusetts that this has happened to. So they've decided to certify because they don't want to spend $10,000 on a fine. So they really do now, it hasn't always been that way in the last 30 years, but it's a different world with the strengthening of enforcement.
Do you certify hemp?
Yes.
Could I ask about that a little bit? I'm curious because organic certification means that you would, I mean, from a legal standpoint, you say I am certified organic. It's a lot different than saying I use organic principles in my farming practices, or organic practices, or whatever. So I'm curious about what the legal, what ground they have to stand on.
You can't market your produce as organic, even if you're saying you're not certified. You cannot do that because the USDA.
So they've stolen the word.
They own the word now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Following on the recent questions and comments, I work with a lot of new farmers, small farmers, recent immigrants to the country, and everyone pretty much I work with is using organic practices. But I would love to be able to say to a farmer, like, this is how many hours per year it will take you to become certified. This is how much money it will cost you per year to be certified, so that I could just boil it down to nuts and bolts that they can make a decision.
Yes, and I can help you with that. I mean, just as an example, let's just say your revenue is $85,000 in produce every year. The organic certification fee might be $1,100 per year, but you're getting $750 back from the Farm Bill in terms of reimbursement. So the net cost to you for that revenue size is not that much.
Okay.
And it's all revenue based. So if you're selling $2 million, your fee's a lot higher.
Right.
But if you're in that under $100,000 range of sales, which I think the majority of the farms in Massachusetts are, then your fees are fairly low. In terms of how many hours it takes to, the first time around when you fill out the paperwork, it might take you a couple of days to do the paperwork, but after that it's simply an update. So in terms of practical daily exercise of record keeping, the most important things are that you keep your sales records, that you record harvest data, and that you have production records that say transplant date and seed date, and that you're keeping all of your seed invoices. So that when the inspector comes, they can do an audit from seed invoice to sale, so that they can see the integrity, the organic integrity of that whole supply chain. Those are the types of records that you need to keep. And they could be photos. Your records could be photos. You know, they don't have to be automated. They could be handwritten. They could be in one notebook. It doesn't really matter how you keep your records, just so you can show the inspector that you have those dates for the audit trail. And after it becomes practice, it's sort of a no-brainer. And these sort of records, in my opinion, as a farmer, I like to compare them every year. It's like, oh, what did I sell last year? What did I sell this year? What was my yields of potatoes last year versus this year? And the only way I know that is by recording it. So if you're running a business, you want to keep records. Whether or not you're going to be certified or not, but you have to keep those records if you're certified.
Great, yeah, more and more federal programs seem to be requiring small farmers to keep records, so this may be one way to incentivize.
You're doing it anyway, you might as well just.
Yeah.
Yeah, question. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious. So I'm a nursery manager at it's a retail space, and we sell a variety of farms products, including that of organic farms. Now, when we bring a product in, and we have to water it and fertilize it, and we for the organic side of things, we strive to keep making sure fertilization is organic. However, being that we are not certified organic, it feels like a gray area. And you're saying that there's more implementation of.
Yeah, well, the new rules of enforcement, everybody who's involved in the supply chain has to be certified as of March 19th. So that's new, brand new. And so even if you're not touching the product, the plant, if you're a broker and you're just invoicing it, you have to be certified for handling. So it would be the same for the nursery also.
And
otherwise, that is not cannot be sold as organic.
And handlers are eligible for TOPP, is that correct?
Handlers are eligible for TOPP in terms of technical assistance. So a handler is basically a person that is doing what you described, or making a food product, or processing hemp. Those sorts of things. If the product is going through further than just growing it and harvesting it, then it's a handler.
A two-part question related to that. So, from the perspective of a farmer, you're certifying the operation as a whole. It's not as though you can have certain beds that have non-organic.
Well, no, actually there are many very large farms that have 20 acres that are organic and 20 acres that are not.
Okay.
But they have to have separate equipment, otherwise they have to document cleaning and so there's a lot of different things involved if you have a split basis. But a farm like Brookdale Fruit Farm, that's a split operation. They've got both organic and non-organic. They have to, they can't commingle. They can't, store them in the same place. They have to have separate containers. Coolers they need to be separated. So there's a lot involved if you're going to have two operations. And if you're a small farm like yourself, I would never recommend having a split operation. Once you certify the land, every year you're going to tell the certifier what you're growing. So what you want to certify and what you want to sell as organic. So you might have tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, but a whole list. And they get named individually.
Interesting. So that nuance, though, which, that's sort of the node of this supply chain, won't extend to a seed company that sells both, also won't extend to a nursery. So there's a nuance there for producers that, as of March 19th, is going to dissolve for others in the supply chain.
Yes.
Fascinating. Okay.
And what was I going to say? Oh, have you ever been to the grocery store? I might be the only one that notices this, but they have the bananas commingled. It drives me crazy. They're supposed to be separate. And I've told Price Chopper 45 times, you gotta keep them separate. You can't touch, because otherwise, once the organic touches the non-organic, it's contaminated. It's not organic anymore.
Just a sort of follow-on question to that. I'm Tanya from Farm to Institution New England. How much of a restriction is that in the value chain? Is it problematic having enough distributors, processors, things like that, to actually allow for organic in the marketplace in different markets? It seems to me like it would be a lot easier with a really short chain to have that work much better for farmers.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
So you said that it has to you have to be certified throughout the value chain, right?
Yeah.
So just knowing how much, there's distribution and processing tends to be like such a bottleneck for, I'm obviously interested in institutional markets, so for institutional markets anyway, so I'm just curious how much additional restriction is there if you're trying to get organic, if you want an organic product in a school, is there such a big bottleneck on distribution, for example, and getting that product to places?
I don't think there has been, although we will start to see that perhaps this year if it occurs, just because of this new ruling. And there may be operations out there that do not know about the new ruling because they don't know what they don't know, right? So I come across these all the time, all of our consolidators within the Massachusetts market, none of them, as of December 31st, were certified organic. So anybody who's consolidating lots of different products for farms, the one that says organic on the list, it's, you know, they have to be certified also. And it's so that it's better because they're learning how to handle the product appropriately. But the organic market is growing still substantially, so there's definitely a need, and there's a need to ensure there's no fraud, right? That is critical, and that's what these new enforcement rules are all about.
And you said there's some support systems or programs that are also trying to help those kinds of.
Yeah, so TOPP, Transitioning to Organic Partnership Program, there's help also for handlers or processors.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question / maybe a comment. Let's get back up. So, correct me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding of Climate Smart. It's part marketing via the USDA, right? Like in the sense that like someday you might go into a grocery store and see a sticker that says Climate Smart. Or am I making this up?
You're not making it up.
That's okay. So if that's true, which I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Someday, you know, if you get into one of these Climate Smart practices, similar to how organic is now, right? You get the organic stickers everywhere. You'll also see Climate Smart stickers on some of these commodities, and so that provides like the same avenue that organic, you know, currently has. There's another market essentially for Climate Smart, which are like, yeah, which is essentially like very similar practices too, but just like, you know, new labels.
Yeah, organic agriculture is Climate Smart.
Right. Yeah.
So we could use both labels.
You could have both stickers on your bananas, which all the bananas that we grow in New England.
So I'm just gonna hop in and say there's like a place between where we are now and like having that label on food, and I think that probably everyone here is aware of sort of the discourse that we're in around climate change in our country. So there's a lot of debate around the term Climate Smart. I'm sure that I know there's been debate around organic, and there continues to be, right, with now real organic that label. So I just want to put out there that this grant is going to go through, as I said, right, March 31st of 2028. So what is it going to look like for you if you're in that program marketing your products? We don't know the answer to that right now. Is it going to be that what we talked about with organic not being great, that like, hey, like I'm at a farmer's market and I can tell you that these are products that I grew using Climate Smart practices. Like we've talked about that language. For us and the populations that we want to serve for this specific program, we want people to really start through consumer education and be thinking about that. And through educating consumers on like, these are the practices that I use and this is how they help you. You know how we just got that torrential downpour, and do you notice that like my farm isn't like now like we get like runoff isn't going into your property? Like that's because of this program. That's because I implemented new practices and it's how it affects you. So someone therefore, right, is like, great, like I will buy tomatoes from you for this much more because when I have to deal with my property flooding, it's like the bill is this high, right? These are the financial consequences.
Yeah, and I want to build on that by saying Climate Smart is a marketing buzzword, but the practices from what I've seen are 90% of them are old practices that have been around, some of them since the Dust Bowl. The government has been paying farmers to do these practices. So that all that is to say that if Climate Smart goes away, a new buzzword may develop. The practices will be there, the payments will be there, farmers will be paid to do this work as long as there's a government, I think. Because I don't know, when I started farming, they were all about clean air, because it was the Bush administration, and they didn't want to talk about too much environmental stuff, you know. And then all the organic farmers started to percolate through these systems, and pretty soon NRCS was paying for what amount to organic practices. They don't call them that typically, but so I just wanted to say, what's old is new, and this will probably, these practices will be around for a long
But
time.
these practices are ones that will keep, you know, your farms from experiencing massive flooding unless you are by a river.
Oh yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I think it's they're not, we're not worried about it being like a novel program that will go away.
Yeah.
I think is what I'm trying to say.
I think.
Yeah, I think.
Go
No,
ahead.
you go.
I was going to transition us to more discussion, but.
Okay,
please.
I have one more piece that I wanted to connect on, which you inspired about like Dust Bowl and like where we've come and gone, right? So through the Dust Bowl, we learned like we can't just maximize the whole field, right? Because then like wind comes in and there's no edge of field practices. And then it got into that phase of like, oh, we should put like buffers in and plant trees and not be like edge to edge with what our cash crops are. And now Climate Smart helps with those edge of field practices, so it's just another dimension to say like when we think about marketing something, but what you've implemented is like a riparian buffer, how are we thinking about that in the marketing thing? I'm here to, spoiler, I don't have the answer. So these are things we have to figure out, right? Like it's not directly a crop growing in that area of your farm that we can say this is Climate Smart, right? So that's where like maybe that option of like a farm using Climate Smart practices, but you know, how much of a farm is it like 1%? So yeah, stuff to think about.
Last comment.
Yeah.
We can transition. Most of these practices, which are climate smart, are agroecology or regenerative, are essentially indigenous practices that have pre-existed the Dust Bowl and everything, and it's because of colonization and late-stage capitalism and all these other horrible things, which have disrupted the land that we live on, and so returning to indigenous practices with also referring back to the peoples who stewarded them that are still in existence and live here is important too. That's my last bit, and then we can transition.
Excuse me, I had one question on the organic certification.
I think that maybe if we only have limited time, maybe you could just connect directly to her so we can have like
it's a yes or no.
Okay, cool.
I'm not gonna.
Okay.
From what I understand, when they're changing the rules, so if I'm selling my vegetables to a restaurant, and you know they're minor certified organic, because they're putting it in the cooler with somebody else's potatoes, or can they no longer say that it's certified organic tomatoes on their menu?
Most restaurants aren't using the word certified on their menu, but as long as they're keeping it from commingling, they're okay.
But if they're in the same cooler,
If they're in the same cooler, it's okay, but because they're in
As long as they're not
containers, right?
Okay.
They're in containers,
All right,
so
perfect.
they're not touching.
thank you.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure there's some time for you to talk in smaller groups, meet your neighbors.
What you were saying
So
about
we have this prompt. What are you excited about, thinking about for your farm or your garden?